Hi everyone, welcome to HBX Product Overview webinar. Today we'll go through our full range of HBX products. If you have any questions during the webinar, feel free just to type any questions in the GoToWebinar questions, and myself will try to answer your questions as best as possible. So my name is Kevin Vieira. I'm Sales with Marketing with HBX. Just to start off the webinar, we're just going to talk a little bit about HBX before we get into our products. So HBX, we're a privately owned company out of Calgary, Alberta, Canada. We design, build, and manufacture hydronic heating and cooling controls typically for residential, commercial, and industrial applications. We started testing controls back in 2002 with our first controller, the CP1000, in numerous mechanical rooms throughout Alberta, and we finally launched it in 2005. So we've been in business for over 10 years now, but have over 20 years experience with hydronic controls. All our controls are manufactured here in Calgary, they're also ETL listed, which is the biggest testing body in the world, and our controls are also UL and CSA approved, and we also do in-house sensing before actually releasing any of our product out to the market. So there's no problems with the controls for the contractor as well as the homeowner. So here's our complete line of we'll be going through today. We'll be going through our boiler controls, snow melt controls, our wireless controls, geothermal, touch a little bit on our thermostat line as well as our solar controls. So what really separates us from our competitors, is that we can utilize multiple applications all in one control to accommodate a variety of heating and cooling requirements. With the use of HBX, those traditionally complex systems are simplified by the addition of modular components, uncomplicated wiring, and easy programming. We also have a dedicated in-house technical support department to assist you in any way possible. So if you're using our controls for the first time, or just need help troubleshooting, feel free just to give us a call, and we'll guide you through the whole process step by step to making sure that your heating and cooling requirements for that application is exactly what you want it to. So first off, we're going to be just talking about our boiler controls. So we're going to be talking about our CPU1000 or CPU550, and as well as our expansion modules. So, modular design theory. So the biggest principle behind our controls is that we do have that modular expandability. So what that allows us to do is we're able to take small units and make it into larger units. So our main unit here for our boiler controls is our CPU1000, and the control by itself can house up to 2 stages. But if you wanted to expand your boiler capabilities or your heat pump capabilities depending on your application, or if you wanted to control do zoning with certain zones throughout your house, you would just use an expansion module such as our EXP100 and our EXP300, as well as our Zone 500 controller. So these expansion modules allow the CPU1000 to get into those larger applications such as large commercial projects or even industrial situations. And the way we connect the expansion modules is simply done by using a 32-pin connector that connects easily to the side of the control or another module. So as I mentioned before, our CPU1000 is a fully integrated control based on outdoor reset technology. So the controller uses a PID logic that responds to both internal and external environments. Some of the features with the CPU1000 that has multiple application modes. So it's not just a boiler control. We can do a lot more functioning with our control. So within the control, you have our staging control, so we can stage up to 14 on and off boilers or 5 modulating boilers for staging. We can also do mixing. So we have we can control one device, or we can control 2 different devices using the dual system, the dual mixing feature. Sorry, with this 1000 as well. We have a dedicated DHW control, so large commercial projects users often will have a dedicated domestic hot water setup, so we can control that on there as well. Or we can do a dual system where we're controlling that domestic hot water system and your boiler system and combine it into one system using the dual system feature on the CPU1000. And then, as I mentioned before, we have a dual mixing control, so we can go up to 3 water temperatures, 2 high temp and 1 low temp at the same time, and controlling those 2 separate mixing devices with the 1000. So within the control, as you can see, there's no cross wiring, and there's color-coded key terminals for easy wiring. There's also onboard pump sequencing, and you also have extra set points built onto the control. And your domestic hot water is an option, which you can control on every control mode with the 1000. Just like with all our controls, we have a full graphic display, so we can show graphs right onto the control, and there's also a brownout detection there to protect the circuitry. As you know, in rural areas, you know, the power may not be as good as it is in the city, so it's in there to protect the circuitry. So the user interface with the 1000, because we have that full graphic display, we can put all the information onto one screen. Where with our competitor, like such as Techmar, you have to navigate between multiple screens. With us, that's not the case. Everyone wants to see all the information onto one screen. So on the main screen, you can see your temperatures of targets, whether your demands are on and off, all the set points, and you can also see if it's in setback mode as well with the time and the date. With the 1000, there's a second screen to navigate, and this is your system function screen. So you can see what items are on and off along with the number of cycles that has just gone through. So this can just help if you just install the system and your boiler's reading 2,000 cycles after just a few days. That's indicating you're short cycling that boiler somehow. So the system function screen is just a quick check to make sure all is running fine within your system setup. So as I mentioned before, we have the modular expandability. So with the EXP100, expands your capabilities of your boilers or your heat pumps depending on which application you're in, and it also has 2 extra dry contacts that built onto controls as well. So the dry contacts are usually your pumps with the 100, and you can wire whatever voltage you want into or out of the module. So if you were to put 24 volts, 24 would come out. Same, if you put 120, 120 would come out. With the 300 expansion module, its purpose is to provide greater control of your pumps for those larger mechanical systems. So with the 100, you had your dry contacts. With the 300, you have 2 wet contacts built onto it. So when we're talking about wet contacts, that means we already have 120 volts coming out of them already. So you can wire your pumps directly to the XP300 without doing a bunch of interconnection or junction boxes with that. So that's a really great feature with the 300. The expansion modules with the 100 and 300 can also be used for extra set points. So if you wanted to run a hot tub or pool to your heating on your home, you would just add one of these modules onto your CP1000. And the last expansion module is our Model 100. So as I mentioned before, with the CP1000, we could stage up to 5 modulating boilers at one time. So the Model 100, allows us to control those modulating boilers or modulating pumps or valves. So you don't need a resistor to change from a 1 to 10 to a 4 to 20, and this is done by using a diff switch on the back of the control. Other features with the Model 100 is it also has adjustable start and step percentages as well as adjustable set time, and we do have that set point target modulation capability with the module itself. If you wanted to do zoning, we have our zone controls, which is our Zone 500. So this could be a standalone control, or as I mentioned before, it can be used as an expansion module with any of our 1000 or 550 controls. So it can control up to 4 zones per controller, zone pumps or zone valves. Just like with expansion modules, whatever power you put in into the control will come out. It can be expanded up to 36 zones, so you just need to daisy chain the controllers when doing over numerous modules. So as I mentioned before, it can do up to 36 zones. We just thought that was an arbitrary number that no one would ever go over. If you did have an application where you need to do more, you can definitely do that on there as well. So within the zone control itself, it has a boiler TT contacts. So if any of your zones are calling for heat, there's a TT enable on there, so you can use it to a boiler, to run a system pump or valves. The zone control also has a post-purge feature on there as well. And then 24-volt power comes out to your thermostats, and you can also have a domestic hot water priority on that as well. Controlling your zones, there's a dip switch selectable on the back. So whether you want a high temp demand or a low temp demand zone, this will find the demand on the control when either zone calls for heating or cooling. You can set up different priorities with the dip switches. So you can have a heat zone over a cool zone priority. There's also a sequential feature where if you wanted zone 1 to be over 2 or 3 or 4, or if you wanted zone 2 to be over 3 or 4, you do that with the dip switches on the back. And or if you're using multiple modules, you can have priority on that one module over another module when you're using more than one zone control. Good tip is is to set your dip switches before wall mounting, because they are on the back. So that's a good tip to keep in mind when you're installing the Zone 500. And you can also use, forgot to mention, you can use anyone's thermostats with the Zone 500. So with the CPU 550, with the 1000, there was a lot of menus and a lot of different features on there. So we wanted to really kind of simplify in less stages with the new controller, and this is why we came out with our CPU 550. So with the 550, we integrated a new enclosure and a new display with a 3-button user interface that is easy, it's really easy to program, and you can see all the system information onto one screen. So it's just an up and down button and an enter button. With the 550, just like with the 1000, it has multiple applications. So it's just not a boiler control. It can do a lot more than staging your boiler. So obviously we have our staging applications. We have a mixing application. We have a differential set point, pump sequencer, and dual set point, and we'll kind of just go over each applications in the next coming slides. So some of the features and benefits with the 550 is that you can stage up to 3 on and off boilers or a single modulating boiler for each 550. You also have multiple pump selections, so you can run a domestic boiler or system pump, and you also have boiler runtime rotations on there as well. And you do have the option for multiple mixing options, so we can control an injection, floating action valve, or a modulating valve output with the 550. Has all the same features as with the 1000. Very basic how to program. We wanted to keep it as simple as possible for the contractor, as well as for the homeowners. So you still get the color-coded key terminals, and all your system information is displayed onto one main screen. Basic wiring and installation diagram here with your 550. So your first 4 terminals are going to be your demand inputs. 3 and 4 will be for use as a digital aquostat for if you're running your domestic hot water. 5 and 6 is where you would put your first stage boiler or your single modulating boiler. 7 through 10 are going to be your sensor outputs. So sensors are included with the controller, and they're 10 k ohm sensors. But if you didn't want to use our sensors, you can use anyone else's sensors on our control as long as it's 10 k ohms. Your supply power is 120, and then your last 3 relays, gives you options to stage your second boiler or your third boiler, as well as run your mixing devices and your pumps on there as well. So it's very simple, straightforward stuff with the wiring diagram. So with the user interface, as I mentioned before, with the 1000, you had to switch between 2 screens. With the 550, that's not the case. Everything is just on one main screen. So you can see, if you have a current heating demand, if you're running your domestic hot water, and you can see your supply temperatures and your targets. Each box represents where each relay is in your wiring. So example, your first box is your stage 1 boiler, and then your your 4th box there is your injection pump, and it tells you if those devices are on and off. And then, it's in line with that relay, so you know exactly where to wire it when you're doing your system setup. One of the key features with the CPU is that we also integrated a multicolored back display. So depending on which mode of operation is selected, the screen color will actually change to indicate information about the status of your system. So if you were to get a light blue screen, you don't have a present heat demand. So obviously if you were to get a red screen on your 550, you either have a heat demand or a domestic hot water demand and your boiler is running. And if you were to get a dark blue screen, that means your heat demand is on and your boiler is satisfied. So the contractor and homeowner doesn't actually have to be navigating through the control. He can go into his mechanical room and actually just tell exactly what his system is doing based on the screen color on the 550. So the next couple slides, we're just going to go through the different applications with the 550. So obviously in boiler mode, these are used for running your boiler. So with a single boiler and 2-stage boiler operation, the control will actually run your boiler pump as well as your domestic hot water pump on there as well. You can also rotate your boilers in this feature as well, so you can rotate them for every 48 hours. So after those 48 hours have elapsed, your next boiler stage will go on there as well. You can also use domestic hot water in your system setup and set a priority for your domestic hot water call over heating for 60 minutes, and then once those 60 minutes have elapsed, it'll switch back to accommodate for any heat on there as well with your system setup. We also have another feature for domestic hot water, which is fast domestic hot water for multi-stage systems. So instead of waiting for your lag time to turn on your boilers will turn on all at the same time for faster domestic hot water heating with the boiler mode. In the mixing application, so this can be used, we can stage 2 and off boilers and control a mixing device on there and do some sort of mixing on there as well. We can control a pulse modulated mixing device, a modulating, and a floating action valve on there as well. And we have a boiler protection feature in the mixing mode on there as well. In differential set points, so we're running a differential between two set points. In this mode, the control will also send a modulating signal output based on how far the control is from that differential. So this can also be used to run a pump in modulating applications for constant flow as well. We also have pump sequencer on the CPU 550, so this provides control up to 2 pumps and maintains that feed water flow throughout your system. The control allows your system to sequence, cycle, override your pumps, and turn that pump off when it gets to a certain temperature, such as in warm weather shutdown. If you want your pumps to just be running all the time, you just wouldn't connect an outdoor sensor. And with the pump sequencer, you can actually connect a flow alarm on there as well. So if you don't have any water throughout your system, this will automatically shut down your pumps in pump sequencer. And the last application is our dual set point. So this is a new feature that we just added on the CPU 550. So this allows the control of 2 set points individually. So it's a little different from the differential set point where one set point has no effect on the other. So you can use this feature for heating or cooling, or if you wanted to do heating and cooling at the same time, you can do that as well. Each set point has 2 relays assigned to them. So one would be on when the set point is above the target, and then the other would be off, and vice versa. The next 2 slides are just comparison charts with the HBX line compared to the Tecmar product line. HBX is cost competitive with the Tecmar line, and a lot of the time our controls are below the cost of Tecmar controls. So as you can see with their CPU 1000, we're able to replace 8 different Tecmar controls. And then better example is with our CPU 550, we're able actually to replace 20 different Tecmar controls. So just with 2 controls with HBX, we're replacing almost 30 different Tecmar controls. So that's really benefiting the wholesaler and contractor, as they don't have to stock as many different controls, as well as learn about 30 different controls. It saves them a lot of time and money. So they know with our 2 controls, you pretty much have every application covered, and they know those 2 products will sell. So that's kind of just brief entry into our boiler controls. We're going to get into our geothermal controls as of now. So just like with our CPU, our boiler control line, we have our Eco 1000 and our Eco 550 controller. So with our Eco 1000, it either gives you solar or geothermal capabilities. It works as the same premise as the CPU 1000. The only thing that's different between them is actually the internal software within the control. Everything is the same as far as color-coded key terminals, and you have extra set points built in. And you can use all expansion modules except for the Mod 100 because you don't do any modulating in a geothermal application. It also has a fault indicator on there as well, and also has an automatic heat and cool changeover feature. So what that does is that we have a warm weather shutdown built onto the control and a cold weather shutdown built into it, so you can adjust the settings. So it doesn't matter if your thermostat is calling in for cooling. If it's only 40 degrees out, you can lock those out. It also has onboard graphing on there as well. And we also have a built-in history on our Eco 1000s or CPU 1000, so you can actually see what your system's been doing for the last 5 to 7 days if the contractor or homeowner wants to access that information, even for troubleshooting purposes. So that's another great feature with the 1000 controllers. So just like with the CPU 1000, you can see your temperatures with targets, whether your demands are on and off. All the set points, you can see if you have a heat demand or a cooling demand, and you also get the system function screen, so which again allows you to see what items are on and off along with the number of cycles it has gone through. So in geo applications, we can do up to 14 stages on and off for 7 2-stage compressors for heat pumps. This can also be used for chillers, so it doesn't necessarily only have to be used for heat pumps in geothermal application. So if you look at the diagram there, so basically this is a single tank with a single heat pump and then out to your ground loops. So with the Eco 1000, we can control everything from the tank to the left. And say if you wanted to put a zoning control, so a zone 500, you can control your zones from the tank to the right. We can also control a backup heat source, especially in those colder states where you might want a backup boiler. So we can do that as well with the Eco 1000. With the Eco 550, it'll run your heat pumps, chillers, as well as your backup boilers, and also run your reversing valves as well. So as an Eco control, it can do everything that the Eco 1000 can do, but it can do it up to 3 stages. So you can control 3 heat pumps if you wanted to, or 2 heat pumps and a backup. You can also run your dual tank or single tank systems, and it has an outdoor reset on your hot tank and cold tank on there as well. And you still get that warm weather shutdown and cold weather shutdown feature with the 550. So just like with the CPU 550, you can see if you have a current heating or cooling demand. You can show your temperatures with targets. With all our 550 controllers, we have that multicolored display. So, if you were to get a green screen, it means your demand is present and your tank is satisfied. Red is a current heating demand, and a blue is a current cooling demand on there as well. So, very good option for the homeowner as well as for the contractor. With the wiring and installation diagram, as I mentioned before, our premise is to keep it as simple as for the contractor as well as the homeowner. So your first 4 terminals are going to be for your heat or cool demand. 5 and 6 is where you would stage up your first heat pump. And 7 to 10 are going to be your sensors, so your hot tank sensor, cold tank sensor, as well as your outdoor sensor on there as well. Supply power, 120 volts. And then your last 3 relays where you would stage up your second or third heat pump. Your second last relay was where you would hook up your backup boiler if you're doing 2 heat pumps and a backup. And then your last relay is where you would hook up your reversing valve on there as well. Now we're just going to move on to our snow melt system. So, snow melt systems are used to remove snow and ice via embedded electrical cables or hydronic tubing. Common areas where, we're installing a lot of snow melt systems are, walkways, driveways, ramps, stairways. And, we're also doing a lot with car washes, the car wash exits where, a lot of people don't dry off the cars, so there's a lot of water coming out there, especially in the winter, and that creates a lot of ice. So that's, very typical options for having a snow melt system. So this is our Snow-01110 optical snow sensor. So the biggest difference between our setup and everyone else's setup is that we've developed this optical sensor rather than, a continuity sensor like with our competitors. So with the optical sensor, it actually allows you to detect the rate of falling snow. So, with your typical continuity sensor, once, snow hits that sensor, it has to melt that snow, then it has to make continuity between those brass fingers and then send that signal back to the control. With our controls, you can actually see how much snow is falling and tune that snow melt system based on that rate. So with this sensor itself, it has a built-in heater, so you'll never have frost and it won't affect that. So with that built-in heater, any snow that accumulates on that sensor, it'll melt that snow and create that puddle. The optical sensor there actually, determines how much snow it took to melt that, create that puddle. So we're able to determine the rate of falling snow based on those optics. So with this sensor, it's a polycarbonate plastic, as you can see. So it's the hardest plastic you can get. It's scratch resistant, so if it's going to be on those driveways, the loading docks, it's going to get dinged, it's going to get scratched. Don't worry, that doesn't affect the optics of the sensor whatsoever. And it also includes 100 feet of sensor wire on there as well. So, with our competitor, they only have, give you an option for 60 feet, 65 feet. With us, you get 100, and you can cut that to whatever length you wanted to. So if you needed 50 feet, you can cut that to 50 feet, or if you needed to extend it more than 100 feet, you can go ahead. You just have to make sure that that connection was waterproof. With our sensor, you can also mount the sensor wherever you'd like, so in a roof or in a flower bed. But with that, you'll need to install the included thermistor into your slab because we have to know the temperature of that slab for us to know how to melt that to function properly. So with our Snow 550, it replaces our previous Snow 500 controller, but has more benefits and feature. So the control uses a new step-by-step interface, allowing for easy setup. So with the Snow 500, we had our preset snow conditions using a percentage. So a lot of people didn't really, we got feedback. A lot of people didn't understand what 10% or 25% snow melt. So with the 550, we change it to 4 different settings. So you can have it from very light to moderate or heavy. Most of the time, commercial users and homeowners will set it to very light where, they don't want to see any snow on there as well. But, depending on, after a month or two and, snow melt systems can be expensive at times depending on how cold it is to run. We have those options for them to run at a different setting. So if they don't mind an inch or 2 snow, they can set it to very light. or if you have a vacation home, obviously you don't want your snow melt system to be running all the time, especially if you're not there. You can set it to moderate or heavy, and then when they do get that heavy snowfall, it'll melt that snow. So it really helps, especially for the homeowners. They can save a lot of money on their utility bills with our sensor compared to our competitors where a continuity sensor is placed. The user interface, so just like with the other 550s, you can see your supply and return temperatures. You can also see the outdoor temperature, and you can also you can use our wireless outdoor sensor for that as well. You can see if your boiler system pump are on and off, and you can see if your floating action valve is up or down on there as well. And then we have the multicolor display. So light blue means your system is off, green is in standby mode, red is in melt mode, and flashing orange is dark blue is you're in idle mode. So I forgot to mention with the 550, we have 4 different settings on there for demands. So you can have your control in idle mode. So for a quicker snow melt, you want to keep it at a certain temperature. Usually it's going to be 26 degrees to 28 degrees Fahrenheit, just above freezing. So you have a quicker snow melt. If you want to save on energy, you can have it in standby mode. So you're not heating up that slab. But once snow is detected, your snow melt system will turn on, but that will take a little longer to melt that snow. And you can also give it a forced demand melt on there as well. So it's just like turning your system on and off like with a light switch. So you would just hold and press the up and down button for 10 seconds, and that'll give it a forced demand melt, especially after your system is shut off and you see some residual snow on your slab. You can give it that forced demand melt to melt any residual snow. So a simple wire and insulation diagram. So your first 5 connectors are going to be for your optical sensor. 6 and 7 is your demand input. So if you want to give it a forced demand melt. 8 or 7 is where you would put your boiler, and then you got your sensors, system sensor return, as well as your outdoor sensor. And your supply power is going to be at 120. And then your last 3 relays where you would hook up either if you're using an injection pump or floating action valve, and your system pump on there as well. So we're just gonna, be talking about a thermostat line and then getting into our wireless products here. So we have 3 different thermostats in our product line. I'll be talking about just the first 2 for now. So our THM100 is our non-programmable thermostat. So it's a single heat, single cool thermostat, as well as a set point control. So it's not only a thermostat, but it can actually be used just for a dedicated set point control on there as well. So we have a lot of different people using it for heating applications or cooling application. And it's also used to be, replace aquastats, so a digital instead of a mechanical. So the one big difference between, our thermostats and everyone else's thermostats is that we're using a full PID logic thermostat. So, that's designed for those radiant applications, as, many thermostats in the market only have the P and the I, but it's actually, the derivatives part that actually gets us into those radiant controls. So with that, we're watching the rate of the movement on the slab on the way up, and we're watching that rate of movement on the slab on the way down as far as heating is concerned. So, that means we won't be overshooting and undershooting. So if you don't have that full PID logic, you're really going to be overshooting and undershooting on that radiant application. So there's 3 different modes you can use the thermostat. So you can use it in room, so you're using the thermistor that's in the thermostat. You can use it in floor mode, so you're using that thermistor when you set up, which includes a 10-foot thermistor, so you can run it into your floor, or you can run it in dual mode, so you're using both the floor and the thermostat thermistors to sense temperatures for both locations. With our THM200 programmable thermostat, so it's a 3-stage fully programmable PID thermostat. It has 5 and 2-day programming, and you can run it up to 3 stages for heating or cooling. So you could have 2 heat or 1 cool, or just 2 heater if you wanted single heat, single cool, or if you wanted cool with a fan control. So there's a lot of different heating and cooling modes you can use with the 200. It also comes with the 10-foot thermistor, just like with the 100, so you can sense room and floor. So it has all the same features as the THM 100, but it can do heating and cooling at the same time. Another great feature with the 200, you can actually use it as a single-stage boiler control as well with outdoor reset. So you can either have it in thermostat mode or in boiler mode, depending on really depends on your application. So now we're just going to get into our wireless solution. So our first wireless product is our wireless outdoor sensor. With the sensor, we can connect to any control that uses a thermistor input. So we can connect it to boilers. We can, hook it up to reset controls, thermostats, a lot of different devices. So, it really makes our wireless outdoor sensor perfect for retrofits as well as new installs. So the sensor itself is a two-part sensor. So the first part connects directly to your outdoor thermistor input of your device, and the second is placed outside. We've developed special algorithms to save on battery power, so the sensor just runs on 2 AA batteries. So it has a minimum 2-year battery life with the sensor, but we launched this product about 3 or 4 years ago, and I'm still talking to contractors that are still running it on the same 2 AA batteries, and and that's in cold, harsh winters up here in Canada. With the sensor, you can you have a lot of different thermistor options built into the control itself, so it's diff selectable, so you could have it running from 500 to 5K, 10K, or 20K. There's some boiler manufacturers out there that use 12K. We can definitely, do that for you as well. I think the Well McLean boilers run at 12K, so, we would just take out the 20K and put the 12K in there for you. With the outdoor sensor, it has a range of up to 2,000 feet open air range on their oil, so that's quite a bit of distance. So, especially for those large commercial projects, you do have that distance to utilize the outdoor sensor. The real benefit with this is that no electricians are needed to wire up your sensor, so it saves the homeowner or commercial user time and money. There's a change battery indicator with the sensor, and there's also a sensor based on signal strength, so it ranges from 1 to 6, so you know where to put that sensor. Good tip is you obviously don't want your sensor to be in direct sunlight, so obviously try to pick a shadier area when you're hooking up your outdoor sensor. And the last thing we're going to be talking about in our product overview is our new Wi-Fi zoning system. So we just came out with this system and launched it in January 1st of this year. So it's a new system that incorporates a zone control. So it's our Zone-0550, along with a new thermostat, which is our THM300 thermostat, and a ThermoLinx Wi-Fi module that plugs into the zone control, and a mobile app for smartphone and tablet devices. So we're just going to go through each component of the system to really describe what the system can do. So with the Wi-Fi zoning system, just like with our Zone 500 and zone control, you can control up to 4 zones per controller. So you can either do pumps or valves. If you did have pumps or valves in the same system, you can do that as well. You just have to make sure that pumps is on one controller and valves is in the other. The system can be expanded to up to 20 zones for each system. But if you had a system more than 20 zones, you just need to add an additional Wi-Fi module on there as well. So to get you to 20 zones, you would need 5 Zone 550 modules. One of the really great feature that we added with that is that with the Zone 500, if you needed additional modules, you needed to wire them and daisy chain them together. With the Zone 550, that's not the case. We're actually using an RF network integrating this into the 550 control, so we're able to talk to other zoning modules using the discovery mode feature within the control, so you don't need to wire them together if you have more than one zone. So just like with our wireless outdoor sensor, the zone controls can actually talk up to a distance of 2,000 feet. So you could have a zone control in different rooms if you wanted to, or have the zone control placed in each manifold that it's serving, and the contractor doesn't have to worry about wiring them together. So it really makes it for a quick installation. Unique to the hydronic industry, we also added a RW and YG connection for fan cooler furnace control. So you can also do damper control on the zone control itself, so you can control up to 2 damper zones per module on there as well. So we're doing the wet side and air side with the Wi-Fi zoning systems, where no one can really do this throughout the industry. So the controller also has the the TT contact, so it enables 2 demands onto a boiler. If you wanted to put your Eco 550 on that, you can wire those in together so they can talk to each other, and it also allows for a system pump and DHW control on there as well. So the system also incorporates our new thermostat here is our THM300. So it has all the same features as the 100 and 200. The only difference between those thermostat is that with the 300, it's actually only a 2-wire thermostat, so it's power and communication. And the reason that we did that is that we wanted the system to be real ideal for retrofits, as most thermostats on the market have at least 2 wires. So it's 3-stage, fully programmable. You have the full graphic display, and you also have the use of 2 external thermistor inputs. So it allows for internal room, external floor, as well as outdoor sensing capabilities, with that option to average your temperatures between your sensors and your zones on there as well. A lot of great feature. We're doing a lot of installs where those 16 and 17 zones where the homeowner or contractor may not want to put the thermostat in each room. So with those external thermistor sensors, you could put all your thermostats into the mechanical room and run those sensors into the room, so you don't have a thermostat on the wall. So there is that option with the Wi-Fi zoning system. And the last piece is our ThermoLinx Wi-Fi module. So this allows what the user can control using their use the control remotely using their smartphone or tablet device. So the ThermoLinx Wi-Fi module simply connects to the side of the Zone 550 module. We really wanted connecting to be easy, where other the Wi-Fi thermostats, the Nest and Honeywells, or even the Ecobees, you have to mess around with the routers or set IP settings. That's not the case with our system. It simply kind of works like a little router where it creates its own network. So on the side of the Wi-Fi module, there's a small button. You simply hold hold that down for 10 seconds, and it creates its own Wi-Fi network. Once you see ThermoLinx in your on your phone or tablet device Wi-Fi settings, you would just connect to that and then start up the HBX Zone app, and then it'll direct you to your Wi-Fi setup, and you would just put your home SSID and password, and that's it. It should really take less than 2 minutes to actually set up on there as well. Another great feature that we added on here is that a lot of these installs be going into new homes. So if the contractor can actually set a personal hotspot on his phone and connect to the system, so he can make sure his pumps or valves are working before the actual the wireless provider actually installs their stuff. And then another thing that we added on here is that you only need one Wi-Fi module for a maximum of 20 zones per system. So it's it's very lowers the cost adding additional Wi-Fi modules for the system on there as well. So with the HBX Zone app, it's a free app available for Apple and Android devices. So with the app, it can do everything that you can do on your thermostat. So you can control targets, schedules, and modes, and updates in real time. So as I mentioned before, with HBX, we make everything. We have a dedicated server, in our building here just for the system. Before we launched it, we actually simulated a test where 80,000 thermostats were checking out at once, and it didn't slow down the system whatsoever. So we really have great control of that. So if that server ever did go down, your system would run just fine. You just wouldn't have remote access with the app on there as well. With the app, we also have alarm email notifications, so you can set an alarm for each sensor that you have. So you can have it put an alarm for your room or floor sensor, as well as your tank sensor on there as well, if you're running that zone as just for dedicated domestic hot water on there as well. And then with the app, you can actually control multiple locations on there as well. So it's unlimited. So if you have the system in your home, office, or cabin, you can control all 3 locations with the app. So here's this the home screen main menu on here on the app. So on the app, once you've added your thermostats, you can see up to 20 zones for each location. So you can customize each zone with a name. You can also monitor current temperatures with your targets. You can give it demands. You can also set priorities for each zone. So if you wanted your domestic hot water, your bedroom to be heated first thing in the morning, you could set those as a priority 1 or priority 2. And then once those have been satisfied, your other zones will then accommodate for their heating call. And then you can even see the current local weather on there as well. You can give alarms for each zones. You can also give a priority shield where that zone ignores other priorities and it's running all the time. So you can really customize each zone to whichever possible application that you needed on there as well. You can set up as damper control. We also have a geo mode with the Wi-Fi zoning system, so we have a mode for those 2 or 4 pipe systems on there as well. So if you were to go into the zone, you have a lot of different options. So you can simply increase or decrease the temperature using the plus or minus button. Any changes you make for each zone, the disk symbol at the bottom will flash green, indicating something has changed. on there, and then save your settings on there as well. So you have advanced settings on there as well, so you can change your thermostat mode if you wanted to. You can set a demand, up to 4 different demands for each zone, so you can set a low temp or a high temp, or if you want to make that zone a dedicated domestic hot water or just as a fan coil zone, you can do that all with the app on there as well. You can set your schedules, so you can set up to 4 different schedules per weekday or weekend. You can turn on your fan if you have a fan coil. You also have intermittent fans, so if you want to draw some air every hour for running for how many minutes you wanted to, you can do that on there as well. You can set your alarms, and then you can set in away temperatures when you go on vacation or just leave the house, so those unoccupied rooms aren't running heat all the time if you're not actually using them on the app on there as well. So that's kind of the Wi-Fi zoning system in a nutshell. We do have a webinar for each control, and we get a little more in depth with them, so feel free to check those webinars out as well, where we go in more depth and we'll show you actually how to set up everything with the Wi-Fi zoning system. The last thing I just wanted to talk about before we end the webinar is our designer software. So we built this designer software to help contractors, engineers, wholesalers to determine what controls are needed for a specific job. So when you go onto the HBX website, you would just want to go into System Designer, which is on the main page, and you're able to choose up to 4 different controls. You could do staging, mixing, geothermal, and snow melt. So say you wanted a staging control, you would set your number of boiler stages or how many modulating boilers you have. You have a domestic hot water option. Once you've selected those options, it will actually populate the controls that you need in that control layout box on there as well. The software also allows you to get wiring diagrams from it as well. So when you're done designing your system, you would just see that fine drawing with the lightning bolt. You would just click on that, and that will go into our HBX server and then find that wiring diagram for that specific setup. If the server doesn't have that specific wiring diagram, just because there's so many different combinations and we haven't done them all, just because there's thousands of different combinations, it actually allows you to send us an email with a brief description of what you're wanting to control, and then we can do that wiring diagram for you, and we usually should get back to you within the day. So it's a really great tool. We have a lot of great resources on our website. So we have controlled videos, how to set up for each application. We have the wiring diagrams, and we also have the manual. So pretty much everything that you need to know is on our website. So feel free to definitely check out our website for more information. So that's our webinar for today. If you have any questions that you didn't ask during the webinar, feel free just to email us at info@hbxcontrols.com or call tech support. Give us a call. We're here to help. Did anyone have any questions in regards to any of the products that we discussed today? Yeah, we just got a question. Are we going to have an app for other controls? So yes, we're actually in the process. We're going to be making an app for all of our 550 controls as well. So right now we're actually just working on our snow melt app. It should be out within the next month or two. So all the hardware is in this the Snow 550. You just have to put a Wi-Fi module, connect that to the Snow 550. And then just download the HBX Zone app so you can see all your zoning as well as your snow melt system. So you can see if your boiler or injection pump is on, and you can set your demands. And real beneficial feature is that if the homeowner sees that it's snowing, he can just go on his app and turn his snow melt system on. We'll be definitely the first people in the hydronic industry to actually have a snow melt app for that application. So we're really excited about that. And then, we'll be coming out with an app for our geothermal controllers as well as our boiler controllers. You can have full access remotely with all HBX controls. All right, doesn't look like we have any more questions. Thank you again for joining HBX webinar. As I mentioned before, if you have any more questions, just email us or give us a phone call. And also check out, our other webinars. We have our snow melt system basics webinar next week, as well as our geothermal webinar, as well as our Wi-Fi zoning system later this month. So thank you again for joining, and we'll talk to you soon.